Hey everybody, back with the vlogging. Very excited to talk with Colt Sliva. He's an SEO engineer at iPullRank. I met with his, boss on probably my first or second vlog ever. Maybe third, I forgot what it was, Mike. And we're gonna be talking a lot of technical stuff. Things around Python and JavaScript SEO, maybe talking about MUM and different AI technologies, entities, and tons of things around natural language processing. So looking forward to you seeing the conversation. I'm looking forward to meeting with him. And it should be a fun conversation. Hope you enjoy. All right, Colt, thank you for meeting me here. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this.
I didn't realize you have to drive so far. I apologize for all the miles I put in your car. You probably haven't driven ever in the past year and a half, but.
I got a new car for some reason because of the car shortage. And so I was like, might as well get new. And so I managed to I went from like 1,200 to 1,400. It's not bad.
Well, that's nice. Cool. Do you have CarPlay in your car or Android Auto?
Yeah, it's all new. It's got.
Which ones do you use?
I use Apple.
You use Apple. Okay, me too. Cool. You have the new iPhone 13? You get too personal? I mean, it's like that DuckDuckGo commercial where like ask you all this information.
Yeah.
Your life, your hopes, your passions. These things are none of our business because your life is private. And unlike other tech companies, we think your internet should be too. Oh, what kind of talk is that? That's none of our business either. Protect your privacy online for free with DuckDuckGo.
I got the one with the 3 cameras because I was like, okay, now this feels like a big enough step up.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I need to upgrade into something instead of just like a small feature set.
And do you use Verizon, AT&T? I'm just usually ask people very personal questions about, social security numbers and so forth. But anyway, thank you so much for coming out here. So I did a vlog once with your boss, right, Mike?
Yes.
Is he good to work? Be honest, you're on film now. Is he good to work for or not?
I love working for him.
It's on record. You can never say that.
It's a good learning experience. Like I felt like my career accelerated 10 years in like 10 months.
That's awesome. He's a good guy, smart guy.
Yeah.
Very, very charismatic, I guess is the word.
Yeah, I can't really hold a candle up to that, but
no,
I try.
Nobody can.
I'll do the song and dance for our clients.
I don't think anybody really can, so I don't know. So you've been with him for about 9-10 months.
Yeah.
By the time this video comes out, it might be 10-11 months or so. So that's good. I'm glad you're working with him. How did you get into SEO? What was your first foray into SEO?
Yeah, so around 2008, my mom was writing a lot, and she was just sort of like posting to Word documents, and I was like, well, microblogging is like the whole new thing. So I set her up with a Blogger blog and started theming it.
Right.
And I really started to dive into like HTML, CSS, stuff like that. I mean, I guess we touched that stuff before with MySpace. Like that MySpace theming was pretty big, but that was basically the start of everything. And then I started making money through AdSense for the next 2 years or so. I got my first payout in AdSense like 10 years ago. Which I didn't think was a big deal, but every time I tell people that, they're like, you got a payout from AdSense?
Did you post a picture of the check?
Yeah, I should have. That was all the rage back then.
Yeah, that picture is actually is that Shoe Money?
Yes, Shoe Money. That's what I was going to say.
So we all Shoe Money, myself,
John Chow was also big.
Yeah, Sean Hogan from Digital Point. We're all like, oh, we're going to go and monetize this stuff. They've done it in a very interesting way, some of them, especially with the picture, and then he sued people for using the picture, but you didn't have that problem. You didn't have to post your picture. It's too much money. I'm going to post the picture so people see it.
It was only a couple of $100. It wasn't like shoe money. But yeah, after that, I was like, okay, I can write content online and actually make money.
Right.
And I was still basically in high school. I was a young kid. Didn't really chase any of this through college. I started making games for fun, just kept up with development. And then went to school for film and media studies, and then first job straight out of school was working for a lighting company, and then writing content on the side for an agency. And then the second job was for an industrial company.
I'm doing fact checking as you're doing this.
Yes, this is all factual. I would not brag about doing marketing for a small industrial company, but it sort of trained some of my in-house chops.
Were they thinking SEO back then or not really?
I was heavily into SEO.
At the company or just personally?
At the company.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it was all the same thing. I was like, I'm going to build this website and I'm going to do it right. So I'm going to optimize everything. I'm going to use modern HTML, modern CSS. I'm not going to use like large libraries because I'm sure site speed's going to be an issue at some point. Like I was forward looking into all of this. And then at a certain point I developed like all of these programming skills where I was like, I know Python, I know JavaScript, so I guess I'll become a full stack developer. And then that sort of like reached the crux of my career like 10 months ago where I was like suddenly reaching out to Mike King and I was like, hey, you know, you're doing some of the more intense SEO that I've seen that matches up with some of my skills. Like I wasn't really aware that technical SEO was like something that I could dive so deeply into, but I'm glad I did.
Interesting. So you initially got into SEO just through the content side. You had obviously development experience.
Yeah.
And you're like, what can I do with this to, you know, further SEO or rankings and so forth?
Sometimes it seems like we started with the internet and blogging, and then it split off into 100 career paths, like today.
Back in the early days, you kind of had to be a technical SEO because search engines were not able to crawl any website you published. I don't know if you remember the older days, like it was every single page that was published on a content management system, which had every single time you loaded the URL, it would be a unique URL. It would have a session ID. So the same page would actually have infinite unique URLs based on page load. So everything was like, all right, how can I make this URL so search engines would index it and so forth. And now it's like less about that, but more about how can I get crawl budget optimized and all that other fun stuff around SEO.
It's changed a lot, but also so much is the same.
Yeah.
There's a blurred line there.
Right, I remember John Mueller just tweeted probably a couple months ago, SEO is basic, but it doesn't make it easy. Meaning the concepts behind SEO are very, very basic, but implementing that is not always the easy task.
Yes, I would agree with that. There's also always edge cases.
Yeah, but I know a lot of your topics here that we wanted to discuss were not necessarily so easy stuff, like specifically around, like one of the things is around like knowledge graph and understanding the algorithms and so forth. And what are your thoughts on that?
So there's still some backstory there.
Yeah.
2016, I saw a talk from someone who I couldn't remember. It was called You Don't Know SEO. And it was, it turned out it was by Mike King. But that got me started on the path of sort of reading white papers and researching into like how are we actually ranking, how are search engines implemented, things like that. And I started just researching a lot into PageRank because we can calculate PageRank. It's not like a big mysterious algorithm that we don't know about.
Right.
It's a known thing. So 2016 I started researching all of that and then like only later realized, oh my God, I went full circle on accident. But yeah, it's not really an easy topic. I think knowing Python helps because you can it'll let you visualize what happens as you create new internal links.
Right.
And you can really visualize this. Like you'll see nodes shrink as they pass value, and then like as one centralizes, it expands.
Right.
And the word that I just said, centralize, I think is the most important word to think about.
Right, expand on that, yeah. What does that mean?
So the technical word for all of these algorithms, like all of these graph algorithms, is eigenvector centrality.
Right.
And what you're doing is calculating betweenness. So when we search for something and we're like, what is the most valid result for this query?
Right.
Oftentimes it'll be the node that is between the most links.
Okay.
Right.
It's not just the most links, it's the node between.
It's not the most links, but it's the most central in the graph.
And the graph, like you have a point over here, a point over here, a point over here, a point over here, and all these are linking to you.
Mm-hmm.
And this might be in this cluster of this topic, are you saying?
Yes. Yeah. So the query shoots you down
topic.
into a cluster, and then it's just sort of like throwing a dart at a dartboard. You know, where you land wants to be the most central point.
And the central point meaning, I'm trying to understand visually how this.
It would help here. Insert graphic here.
Yeah, you'll make a graphic for me and we'll paste it in there?
Yeah, I'll make a graphic for you. But like as things receive links, we can actually calculate like a gravity for it that will pull in other stuff. And then what that happens is like if you've seen some of these charts before, these graph charts.
Yes.
There's the largest one ends up in the center, pulling the other ones in with its gravity.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some really interesting sort of like math and visualizations that we can do with graph algorithms.
And you take that and you find the websites in that centralized location, I guess, is that what you're saying? And you try to get...
I'm just trying to abstract it so that way we can visualize it.
Yeah.
But basically, yeah, that is how the PageRank algorithm communicated value.
Right. The question is, how much are they using PageRank right now?
I don't know.
That nobody knows.
But
Right.
Graph algorithms are not going away.
Right.
That is a part of the authority calculation. It's going to be a part of, it could be a part of LinkedIn, right? And how often you show up, or Twitter, how often people follow you. Anything that's like a directed graph, we can use this with. And that creates some really cool stuff.
Right. And I mean, it's also how search engines themselves are constructed. I mean, if you look at their, I mean, conceptually, that's how their databases are somewhat like, these live in these families, these live in these families, and they're all like these hubs and spokes and nodes and so forth. So it's interesting. It has the knowledge graph fall into that. That's kind of similar. You have your entity structures, right?
Yeah, so that is still a directed graph. The example that I like to use is a bicycle. So a bicycle has a relationship with a road, like an active relationship, but then it's the parent element of wheels. And then there's some other, like, a bicycle belongs into a race, or like a peloton is a group of riders, right? And so we can start, like, we can take this one word and explode it out into many things. And by following that path, it's just a set of relationships that we can draw value and insights from.
It was interesting. I had a conversation a couple of videos before this, where the person who was saying this in the health space, and he's saying it's so important in the health space that he's very into using schema and structured data to make that relationship very, very clear to Google.
Yeah.
Although I'm not sure if Google actually looks at that relationship in the structured data itself.
I do that too, but sometimes it's like well, maybe.
Right, it's like more of like a maybe, and it doesn't hurt. In any event, he's like, if you're saying something outside of the whole, like, the structured data is all linked and everything makes sense, and then there's something weird outside of that, maybe that's like a red flag for Google. Or it's like Google mate, like everybody's saying this, everybody in the web, 80% of the web is saying this about this topic, and then there's this one little weirdness in your entity structure and structured data that's saying something else. Maybe that's kind of like a red flag for Google or something like that. Maybe not, I don't know.
I have seen this with a company classification. A company was classified as a medication instead of as a company.
Okay.
And then I've also seen this with the local listing, where they were using multiple different names, and so they were having trouble getting ranked for their entity name specifically because some of them weren't considered a part of the entity.
Right.
So some locations were just like getting dropped off because they didn't belong to the parent.
Right. So I guess like Microsoft's the company, you have Bing the search engine, you have Xbox the PlayStation game system, you have all the different products. Bing's kind of an entity in itself, but it's kind of like a product of Microsoft.
Yeah, it'd be like if you had, if instead of Microsoft Bing, they called it Bill Gates' cool search engine, it would have then dropped off the like, there's no Microsoft denominator there.
There's also one other personality in the search space that said it's not good for a personality to be experts in two different topics. They have to be experts in one topic.
That's the other
And one
thing,
example
right?
was like Trump, he's president back then when he said it, but he's also the billionaire and he's also the TV personality and so forth. So it's like three massive things that this person does, although he's probably not a billionaire anymore. Either. We're not getting into politics because we don't do that here. But you hear what I'm saying, right? Does that hurt?
Yeah, I would create a different name if you're trying to like match different intents, right? I think that's a good idea to have a one-to-one relationship. Also, I try to preach specificity. So be as specific about the result that you want as possible. And I think that's a case where if you're splitting yourself, right, you're splitting signals, you're not being specific, you're gonna get split results.
And this applies in terms of your day-to-day job, in terms of writing content and getting maybe links from valuable sources, is that you want to stay within that, I guess, graph, in that bubble. You don't want to go beyond that bubble and get links from, I don't know, something that has nothing to do with bicycles or something like that.
Yeah, I would say like you want to keep your lane as tight as possible for everything, right? So like if you have a keyword that you're trying to target as hard as possible, keep close keyword matches to that, right? One page for that, one entity, and then by keeping that page so focused, you're not going to run into keyword cannibalization issues, which is kind of what we're talking about, like entity cannibalization or keyword cannibalization. It's very similar.
Cool.